So just in the beginning, when the war was starting, do you prepare for the war, like a shelter, buy more food or something?
Well, how to tell you? I think I would say I myself more on a positive kind of side of thinking, like in general. So I sort of I was not like really preparing or something. And maybe like last like 3 days before the war, when this like whole thing intensified, and etc., we started basically thinking about it, like maybe withdrawing some cash, like just to have it, like put some more gas in the tank. But we were not like sort of, I would say we were not prepared at all, if I think it from current perspective. So it was like a complete shock, and it wasn't very clear what to do at the beginning. So we didn't have like any shelter or something. It was like chaotic, let's say, because you know, at the first day there was like a lot of bombings and so on, a lot of shellings. As I showed you, you know, over there on the horizon you see like the basically battlefield. So it was like a bit creating of this, how to say, like pressure on you or something, I don't know. So then we started to build like a chaotic, let's say, shelter in the basement. So many people like try to flee Kyiv. I mean, on this, so this is road to the west. Basically, it was cut off by Russians maybe 2 days after the war started. But at the first 2 days, it was like just one huge jam, maybe for like 30 kilometers that way. People were fleeing. And I would say maybe during the first 3 days, like 30% of this like residential area stayed. And well, those people who stayed, they started building like, well, bringing different stuff like mattresses, blankets, food, and so on. And we lived basically for those 3 days in the basement. Well, I would not say we lived there. We would rather spend there like nights, because during the day it was like somehow calmer and so on, and you wanted to come back, you know, wash yourself and stuff, like over here in this space. But it was like a bit. We were not very comfortable. It was not very comfortable to sleep here, because you don't know whether your windows will not, you know, shatter or something, and so on. So that's how it was.
Okay. In general, how the civilian life changed when the war began?
Oh, I think it depends from a kind of period of the year. I think the main difference is coming whether there are like massive shellings or not. And it's not like they're doing a lot of those drones attacks or missiles attacks like consistently. You have some peaks. For example, during winter, they're like basically there are shellings or missiles attacks like every, like, I don't know, every week or every 2 weeks. So then basically there is no electricity. So I'm living on 15th floor. If there is no electricity, basically there is no water, there is no elevator, so you basically go up by foot, and so on. So that changed your life completely. You need to figure out how to deal with it. Unfortunately, I don't have it here, but basically last winter, most of the time we were preparing food on this camping gas heater or something, but it's in my like storage right now. Because this winter was like much better, but winter of 2022 it was like really crazy. So we had like this schedule for electricity. It's probably hard to imagine for a regular like person in the EU what is electricity by schedule. So basically, 4 hours you have electricity and 4 hours you don't, because somebody else is getting it. And those schedules were never working. So you don't really know when when you will have it or when you will not have it, because you know those attacks in 2022 they were happening like massively all the time. They were destroying all of the like heating plants, kind of electric power station and so on. It was very unpredictable, and you know, in houses where you don't have like if you're living over 5th floor, there is like no water like by itself. You need to pump it up by electricity. So all of the buildings like this one, for example, you don't have water normally. You don't have heating. You know, you cannot prepare food because there is no gas here, because I mean we have electricity stove and so on. So that was like a shocker, but I think everyone, what is like really nice and what I enjoy about like humankind is that the person can adapt to anything. So maybe after 1 or 2 months, you can basically buy anything you need. So I bought like EcoFlow, I bought that camping stove. I have, even now, I have like a huge storage of water at my balcony. So if we don't have water, we at least have some, for temporary use and so on. So people are adapting. And probably people became more healthier when you have to walk a couple of times per day on 15th floor. It's like, it's better for your health, I would say.
You work in international company, yeah?
Yes.
What do you do if you sit in the meeting in the era it starts? You go to the basement, and how the colleagues are reacting to this?
Well, for colleagues, it's definitely like a shock. So in terms of what we do, I think originally, maybe last year, we were going to the basement more often. Because it was like a higher degree of predictability generally. You didn't know what they are like throwing at you. And the air defense system was much weaker than now. It was like a couple of times weaker, I would say. Right now, at least in Kyiv, because I live here. I don't know about other like big cities, like, I don't know, Dnipro, Zaporizhzhia, Lviv, and so on. I can share my experience. So how it works right now after 2 years of the war. There are a lot of Telegram channels, I can show you. And somehow they're getting info. So this is not official like information, because from official channels you're just getting air alert and that's it. Go to a basement. They don't tell you what is like flying at you. But in those Telegram channels, somehow they're getting information what exactly is flying. So for example, by now I know you can get like either cruise missile like Calibre X-101, either like ballistic missiles like Kinjal and so on, or it can be like Shahed or something like that, or it can be fake target as well. Normally in those channels you kind of can assess the situation and know what is that. If it's a ballistic missile, we are trying to go basically to the shelter because it's very fast and there is like very small chance it is going to be intercepted. And there are some military objects around here. I'm not going to tell you which one, but there is a chance of like something happening here. So that's about ballistic missiles. Then if you're having the cruise missiles like Kinjal and so on, it takes them maybe like 1 hour to get to Kyiv from the launch zone. So normally you're getting alerted. So, okay, they're flying in Dnipro, they're now in Poltava. So then when you know that they're like approaching Kyiv, and normally they tell you from which side. So as I mentioned, this is western side. If they're approaching from eastern side, we are more or less like relaxed, because we know that it's very low chance they will basically pass it or make it to here, to this location. So maybe in those cases we're just going to either to corridor or to the toilet, whatever, like bathroom. And why you do that is because even if your house is not heated but there is a shock wave, it may shatter the window and you may kind of damage yourself by those pieces. And then if there are drone kamikazes, like those kamikaze drones, is a bit like similar, but those drones, they're flying very slow, so you can, if they're flying by, you can even hear them by yourself. So then you basically wait. If everything is fine, you just like wait, do nothing. But then if they're like close, you're like going to the basement or something. This is during the day. At night, it's a bit different story. Because it's in this place particularly, for example, it's hard to hear the siren at night. So it's not because of the like how city is done or stuff. Probably something with my windows. I don't know. It's like the noise is not that it doesn't penetrate them. You may wake up from time to time from those explosions or something like that. So then what we do, we basically run to that general corridor, and generally that's sufficient. My opinion on this is the following. If the chance that your house will be hit by something massive is like kind of slim, it's possible, but whether you will be there in the corridor or in the room, it doesn't really matter. It's like game over, more or less. But then if, for example, missile hits something nearby you and you have the shock wave and everything, then it's better to be somewhere in the corridor, so you're not gonna be basically damaged by the different metal pieces and so on. So we are trying right now to go maybe to the corridor more often. If we know that there is something kind of big coming for you or something, then we go to the basement, just to be safe. Because we also have a small kid, that's a big difference when you're like an adult and you're in charge of yourself. And then I'm like a bit worried about my son. So due to that, I'm trying to take more precautious kind of measures to make sure he's safe.
So you go to the basement if you see something like a drone going to you?
Yes, because imagine like right now it's more calm, but we had periods of time where you have siren like 10 times per day. I mean, physically you just like, you cannot do that, unfortunately. You cannot react to everything, so you have to adapt, learn, and try to basically analyze the situation. I mean, it's everyone's decision more or less, and then act appropriately. So the basement itself, I would say we were going there at the beginning more, when you didn't know what it is, what is like the missile, what is the kamikaze drone or something. By now, everyone in Ukraine, well, most of the people actually has experienced it, like at least some explosions or like flying by or something. So you're used, it's not like something new, so you're acting accordingly.
And how can civilians contribute to the military if they want?
Well, there are multiple ways, especially if you're like in Ukraine. So first, you can basically, there are like so many charity funds. Some are smaller, some more targeted, some are bigger. So the very kind of evident way is like you can just send money to those organizations you trust, and then they do it for you. Then you can basically, if you know how, if you have some skills, basically there are organizations that can utilize them. For example, there are people who are preparing those camouflage nets, like in Ukraine, or stuff like that. Or there are organizations that are preparing food for the military or something like that. So you can contribute either with money, or you can contribute with your kind of skills or talent, or you can, start your own organizations. Like, for example, we with our colleagues and friends from Estonia did, so we launched this NGO that is basically bringing, we are focused mainly on cars, so we are fundraising in Estonia, buying cars there, repairing them, and bringing them to Ukraine to different military units directly. And we are working mainly by direct request, so it's not like there is some big place where you bring, 10 cars and you don't know where they are going. We're getting a request, let's say, 23rd Brigade is asking for like a pickup, and then they call me, and then we send this request to Estonia, and then it's like a targeted help which comes relatively quickly. So that's how we are running it, and we brought probably around 250 cars or something by now. So it's maybe 3 battalions fully equipped by cars. But it's nothing in reality, because they're like just being destroyed all the time. It's like expendable in many cases.
How Ukrainians, what Ukrainians think about like Lithuanians, which trying to help?
I think that, in the situation that we're like basically thankful to any help, because, the situation is very kind of tough, and it's not like it's turning to the better right now. Maybe it's turning more like south, unfortunately. I mean, I hope for the best, but, that's what's the feeling like of overall population is. But I think this feeling of brotherhood and kind of appreciating help and being thankful, that like significantly increased. And I would say that before the war, probably Baltic states were not that well kind of known to mass population, I would say, because those are like fairly small countries. Maybe for our parents and so on, because there was like the Soviet Union and so on, it was more common. For me, for example, before I started working in like Civita, I knew like very little about like Baltic countries. But I think now the brand is like, the brand of those countries is expanding significantly because of the fact what you're doing and how you're contributing. and basically because of positions of your countries and I mean people in your countries and leadership of your countries against, you know, this like opponent that we, a common enemy that we have, let's say. So I think people are thankful and they are aware generally of what Baltic states are doing.
Maybe I didn't ask something what is important to say and you have to say it.
I don't know, keep supporting Ukraine because what I don't get, basically, this is, I mean, I can explain a little bit. What I don't get is like why some countries do not understand that this sort of war or conflict is like inevitable maybe in the long run. If you don't support Ukraine now and basically don't engage in a direct fight and Ukraine falls, basically all of the countries in the EU and US as well probably will engage in this conflict like later, and it will be at a much bigger cost. So what I'm not understanding is why, for example, those governments that are not investing in Ukraine to deal with the problem with other people's hands, sort of with a very limited cost. But I don't know whether that's a problem of like common knowledge in those countries, or maybe Russia is like pouring a lot of money in propaganda. But yeah, what I would have to say is like try to support Ukraine as much as you can, because that's your investment in safety and peace. Before, like 2 years ago, before the war, it was like really hard to imagine, and I would probably not comprehend these words. But right now, you know, peace and safety, it's like probably everyone understands the importance of that.